I'm Debbie Tubertini. I am the coordinator for the Office of Family Ministry at the Jackson Diocese. I have been in the ministry world for, I was at St. Richard Catholic Church in Jackson for 14 years as the director of evangelization and small faith. I moved to the Chancery in October of, I think, 2022. You know, it all just runs together. I am a certified Billings ovulation method instructor. Have been doing that which is natural family planning, if you're thinking, what the heck is she talking about? I've done that for 36 years. My husband and I were involved in we attended Marriage Prep, which is Engaged Encounter, a weekend program. We've been married in May, it'll be 40 years. I got married when I was 5. I was 5. After, I guess a few years after we had been married, we got involved with Engaged Encounter. And so when the opportunity came to move to the Chancery, it was really I took the job description home and I was asking my family, they were going like, Mom, seriously? I mean, it has your name on it. So here I am. But I'm excited to be here. This is my heart. This is my family. Over on the left-hand side, I have 4 children, and I'm going to go from left, your left, I guess left to right. Emily Grace, the baby, she's the caboose. She is 23. She is finishing her college. She actually starts her master's for elementary education, so she's at home with us. The next one that has the child who fell asleep at Mass, that's my only daughter that's married. That's Amy. She's 28, will be 29, St. Patrick's Day. Should have named her like Patty O'Brien or something, but she's Amy Elizabeth. The next one is my oldest. She's 35. She lives in Atlanta. That's Ashley. Oh, the guy in the back, he's my husband. Forgot him. And then the good-looking fella on the right-hand side is my son. That's Jared. He's 26, and he's in Jacksonville, Florida. So Amy, I don't know if I said, Amy is married. I don't have a picture, so if you know my son-in-law, don't tell him that I didn't have him in the picture. Jeffrey, they live in Dade City, Florida, which is 11 hours away. And then to the right is our 2 granddaughters. Presley is the one who's asleep in the left picture, but she's 4 years old. And then the little dark-headed one, which is odd for my family because we're light-headed. We thought it was the Amazon guy or something. That's Emery. She's 6 weeks old. And that picture was about a week ago. So, all right. You don't have to say that. I just had to put a picture in there, you know. I wanted to talk about something that would apply to everybody. Obviously, when Father Dave asked me to do this, it was on marriage, which obviously that is the spin I have on this one. But I wanted it to be even for any relationship. We go through the cycle of love. So that's really kind of what what I'm going to talk about tonight. And if you have questions as I'm going, feel free. I'm very informal. You can ask me. I'll have time at the end if you want to ask a question also. But or if I say something that doesn't make any sense, feel free to ask me. But the cycle of love is a reoccurring cycle, whether we've been married for 6 months or 50 years or 60 years. And we'll talk about each one of the phases, but love is not dependent upon feelings. We all have ups and downs in our relationships. Again, whether it's a marital relationship or it's a friend relationship. And this is very normal. So the 4 phases of the cycle of love are, and again, these cycle is repeated sometimes over days, over weeks. I wanted to see how my image looked on the screen, or even months. When we get to that disillusion, so the 4 phases are romance, disillusionment, love is a decision, and true joy. So the disillusionment and the love is a decision, that's when we have to use our intellect and decide that we've got to break out of that impasse of the disillusionment to get to the true joy. And again, it's cyclic. So, again, we just go round and round. Again, whether you have been married for 6 months or 60 years. So love is not only a feeling, but it's a decision. It's a decision that we have to be open, even when we don't feel like it. And we make that decision that we've got to move past whatever it is, whether it's a hurt or a wound, some kind of a wound. We have to listen to our spouse. And again, even when maybe they're not being as open or giving, or we're not. But again, you have to make that decision to love. The first phase of the cycle is romance. Romance is that beautiful, emotionally charged, sensitive time. Everything about that person is so special. Again, even if it's a friendship. This is the time that we kind of, as I call it, I use a lot of analogies. It's like putting money in the bank or gas in the car. We're kind of putting stuff in there, so we're storing up. So these are the times that we're savoring, or those lifelong treasured memories are being, written on our heart. And they stir up those intense feelings as, we're truly one. We're a part of each other. So what I want you to do right now, if you are married, I want you to think about I know there's probably many, but think about an attribute, a trait, a characteristic that drew you to your spouse. If you're not married, I want you to think of a friendship and just think of some characteristic that drew you to that person, okay? So I give you about 10 seconds to think. If you've been married like 50 or 60 years, it may take 20 seconds, but I want you to kind of put it in the back of your mind. We'll talk about it in a second. So for me, the 2 characteristics, and like I said, we've been married almost 40 years. In May, it'll be 40, which I cannot believe that. But the 2 characteristics that drew me to Doug were, one, his compassion. He seemed to, when he was talking with you, he just kind of hung on every word that you said. He just seemed so interested. And the second was his laid-back personality. He just seemed to stop and smell the roses all the time, which was a little different than when I was growing up. I have one brother and my parents. My dad was in the military, so maybe that, was part of it. But he was very driven, very scheduled, very organized. A task, the only good task was a completed task or a completed project. When we would take trips, we started at point A and we went to point B. You didn't really stop a whole lot in between. Our goal was to get to point B. If we did stop to get gas or whatever, whether you had to go to the bathroom or not, everybody, well, the three of us, my mom, my brother, and I, we went in and you went to the bathroom. So again, very structured. So for me, this laid-back personality with Doug was real refreshing because it just seemed like, we would take a drive and he's paying attention to the changing of the flowers. I mean, not the flowers, the trees, the color of the trees. It's kind of cool. So when you think of romance, for me, before Doug and I married, I guess I thought of, candlelight dinner and wine and was romantic. But once we got married, how romance is displayed was a lot of different ways. I think about when we had children, one of the things that we did, we went to a Christmas tree farm at Christmas time. I made hot chocolate. We went to the Christmas tree farm. We spent hours, a lot of times there were hay rides and that kind of thing. We drank the hot chocolate looking for that perfect Christmas tree. Again, that's one of those memories that, and I hope my children think about that, and it's, imprinted on my heart. When Doug and I would work on projects together, working in the yard together, all of those were kind of a romantic. When we had the opportunity to share with him that I was expecting a baby, and then their births, and then all of the milestones that you have with children, the walking and the talking and the graduating. As I said, I have one daughter who's married. So all of these are examples that for me, they were romantic in that the level of love that it generated, that bonding how that affected us. Anytime you've got a couple, when I just had to worry about Debbie, I didn't have to think about anybody else. But when you have someone else you have to think about, there are sacrifices. He wants to do not always what I want to do, or vice versa. So sacrifice it builds love as we appreciate that person that we're sharing our life with. So again, love is a decision. It's not only a feeling, but it's a decision to be open and share even when we don't want to. Again, we listen to our spouse, we listen to one another, and we are open and giving, again, even when we don't necessarily want to do that. The second phase is disillusionment. Disillusionment is that I-centered versus the we-centered. It's, when we sometimes feel unappreciated, used, taken for granted. Sometimes we have a sense of loneliness and alienation. Sometimes a little self-pity. Sometimes we're the martyr. If you think about that characteristics that I asked you about earlier, sometimes what drew you to that person, so think about what you thought about, that you wrote on your little brain there for a second. Sometimes that can be a source of discontent. So for me, that laid-back personality, which I found attractive and fun and whatever, not very long into our marriage, became a source of discontent. Mr. Tubertini would tell you that I coined "just do it" long before Nike ever did. Again, I guess I'm a little more like my dad. We got a project, we get it done, we have a list, we do our list and move on. I do wish Doug were here because I know he's got a long list of the traits or my personality that can throw him into that source of discontent, especially my slightly compulsive personality. If he were standing here, he would be laughing hysterically, going, "Slightly? Really?" But I do have this is a question. Well, it can be for everybody. I was thinking for the ladies. My question for you is if I want you to raise your hand if you agree with this statement. There is a right and wrong way to load the dishwasher. Yes! And those of you who didn't raise your hand, Doug would be going, yes! This actually was a conversation we had this very week when I shared with him that the bowl that he put in there he didn't rinse it out. So he says, "What is a dishwasher, Debbie?" I said, "It's not a dish rinser. You rinse and then you put it in there." Again, 40 years and we still don't necessarily agree on that one. So again, disillusionment takes the eyes off of the other and focuses on how they are not living up to our expectations. It's easy to get stuck in this phase. I know a family that I'm close to that they got hung up in this for actually a very long time. They've been married for a long, long time. They obviously finally got out of, but it was years that she was really holding on to some things and wouldn't let go of it. Just a couple things. One is that when you're discussing a hurt or some issue, don't bring up the past, because it's kind of like that snowball that's rolling down that snow-covered hill, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Address the issue, and the past is in the past. Move on. And two words that we have to be very careful using: never, always. You never pick up your shoes. You always leave your shoes in the living room, or you always load the dishwasher wrong. I don't tell him that. I may think it, but I don't tell him that. So again, in this, if you are going to use never and always, you can say, "I will always love you and I will never leave you." But other than that, you have to be careful with those two words. So again, in this phase, we lose sight of the gift that we are to one another, and the relationship suffers. So the third phase is love as a decision. Thank goodness for this phase, and actually the true joy. This is where we make the decision that we are going to love, and we can control this. Even when we don't have that, the emotional high of romance that motivates us, we have our intellect that says, "I do love this person, and I want to make this work. I want, in good times and in bad." I think all of us probably said that in our wedding vows, in good times and bad, in sickness and health, till death do us part. So there's going to be some challenges. I don't care who you are. So again, even when we don't have that emotional high, we have the intellect that moves us from that self-centered to the other-centered dimension. Now, I do like to use analogies, and I had to figure out a way to put my grandbaby in this presentation. This is my sweet little Emery, who's 6 weeks old this week, actually. And again, I think analogies, I do like to use analogies. I think they can get the point across better than I probably could myself. But my daughter, Amy, is nursing. And, well, you can see those little cheeks. She's doing pretty well with the feeding. So she's eating probably every couple hours. So Amy's not getting very much sleep. So it's that decision that Amy makes to love, to say, you know what, I'm not getting a lot of sleep right now, but Emery's hungry. It's no heroics, just plain love. All of us, if you have children, you've been there. Whether they've had a fever through the night, they're throwing up, and we just are relieved when the fever goes down and they're sleeping and they quit throwing up. Again, we just say, you know what, I'll take a nap tomorrow, or I'll go to bed early. Again, no heroics, just plain love. Isn't she cute? Y'all were supposed to go, ooh, ah. So, again, we can control the relationship by deciding to love. We start discussions of an issue maybe that we've been avoiding, being completely open with one another in a loving and non-confrontational way, to share with each other how our feelings are affecting, and how they're affecting each of us. And if we don't do that, the relationship it suffers. So that laid back personality that I loved so much when I first met Doug, that if I allow it to throw me into the disillusionment, it does, because he and I have very different ideas, even after 40 years, on how we handle things. Like I said, I'm kind of the executor, the just do it gal, but he wants to think about it. An example was painting a room. So I want to just pick a color and paint the room. I don't mind painting. It's not that I'm asking him to paint. I'll paint. But he wants to get the little swatches, the little jars or whatever, the paint, and we put 20 on the wall. And then we leave it there for a couple weeks to decide which one of those. I'm like, oh my gosh, for crying out loud, let's just paint the wall. I'll repaint it if I don't like it. It's like it depends on what our decor is going to be. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's wearing me out. So what we have come to understand is that we have to decide to love in the good times and the bad. And we've realized that if we don't, our relationship does suffer. We've decided that we needed to communicate with one another and listen to each other on how those actions are affecting us and affecting our relationship. Again, we're moving from that I-centered to the we-centered dimension of the relationship. So the fourth phase is true joy. So once you've made the decision to love, that alienation, the loneliness, the frustration, it's removed, and we get to the true joy. And again, this is something we go through all of our married life, whether we've been married a few years or a lot of years. Different things that happen. You're two different individuals. You were raised by different people. Some of you in different locations. I'm not from here. I'm from the as some people said, the North. It's really Indiana, which is really, it's the Midwest. But so we were raised, I don't know if it's because I lived there, but we were raised very differently. I remember my mom saying to Doug before we got married, Doug, are you sure? She was raised really different than you were. And here we are. So I guess he was like, okay, I like a challenge or something. He got it. Let me tell you, he got it. Again, true joy comes from putting aside that self-centeredness and focusing on us, the couple. There is a sense of acceptance and oneness that we have when we do that. Despite the challenges, there will be challenges. We have sometimes little crosses, sometimes big crosses, sometimes a lot of crosses. But we're in it for the long haul. So just appreciating that this too shall pass as far as the disillusionment. So kind of to sum up, we all go through periods of the romance and the disillusionment. You can do something about that by deciding to love that reduces that periods of disillusionment and allows you to achieve true joy. My hope for you is that something that I said tonight may resonate with you, may be beneficial. I know for Doug and I, just knowing that it is a cycle, and I think sometimes couples get hung up in that disillusionment, and it's like, this ain't what I signed up for. I'm out. Where if you know you're going to move from that, I mean, it takes work. Anybody who's married or ever been married, if somebody said, is marriage easy? I'd say, no, it's not easy. But is it worth it? Oh my gosh, yes. Just like children. Was it easy raising 4 children? No. But would I do it again times 4 million? I would. So, it's definitely worth that. I went pretty fast, didn't I? Are y'all trying to get it? So, questions or comments? I won't leave unless you ask me a question, so we could be here all night.
My husband and I joke, ain't nobody getting out of this alive.
She said, my husband and I say, ain't nobody getting out of this alive. I like that.
My wife said that to me earlier too.
Today?
No.
Or
35 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But I agree with you with the cycles. We've been married 37. We have 3 daughters. We've been here, we've been there. My job's moving around all over the country. Now we have a granddaughter, and the cycle is absolute. You don't appreciate it. You get so tied up in your self-centeredness that you don't appreciate what you have with her. And believe me, she's a saint, because I'm not. So
He's getting attaboys right now.
What you said resonates with me because we've been through those cycles numerous times. Everything with me living away for 6 years, and not for weekends, right? Coming on weekends and doing my job, paying the bills, going away for the week, and that's so we are the extreme of that. So I appreciate, when you say that love that you have, that is perfect. It is, but it wouldn't be without her being able to absorb all my crap. So it's good.
Well, we work together. It's a team.
Yeah, and that's what we realized, right? So without us, and we've had troubles, and she said,
she's stuck in the love.
It's like, that's exactly right. I keep trying to stir it up. She's a stubborn woman, man. I love her.
That's great. Anything else?
When I was telling you about my son's accident, it was, I guess we were on week 5 or 6 with him at the TICU at the Med. And my husband came to me, because I stayed 24/7 at the Med. And he goes, my mother called today, and I said, all right, what did she want? It's like, that's the last thing I wanted to hear.
Right.
And she wanted to know about our marriage.
Oh.
And I said, what about our marriage? And she said she wanted to know if we were going to break up over this. And I went, break up? Do you think I'm going to leave? You're the only one who understands what I'm going through with our son in this accident that he had. But she wasn't the only one. There were friends of ours that came to us separately because he had the accident in May, and we went to the Shepherd Center and left him 2 days before Christmas in December to bring him home. And we had friends who asked us the whole entire time, well, is your marriage good? Are you breaking up? Are you getting divorced? Or whatever. And I'm going, who else understands me
I know.
at this point?
Isn't it sad that that's kind of the question? I mean, it's, you know, it's not like, how can I help you, or can
I know it happens. I get
right.
that, but it's still the whole entire time I'm going, you're the only one who understands what we're going through.
Yeah. The separation, that's a big cross. I mean, like you know, she's keeping the children all week, and you come in on the weekend. I call it like Disney World Dad. He's here, and he's probably fun, and then he's out, you know. So, I mean...
Yeah, phone calls in the middle of the week, or, do you know what your daughter...
When your dad gets home...
No, ma'am, but I'm good. It's always your daughter.
Yeah.
I've done that before, your daughter.
When they do good things, we say, my daughter, my son. If they're bad, we say your daughter.
No,
Your.
it was good. She didn't say our.
Oh, okay.
I'll give her that.
Yeah, I probably said that a couple of times too.
I do it differently a little bit, but man, our girls are pretty good. Barely did good.
That's good. That's good. Well, you had a good foundation. Do you have a question?
I was just going to say, I for someone who isn't married but has children, 2 daughters, God.
Yeah. I understand. I have 3.
I can see all 4 of those phases with my children. There's times where, you know, we're going through the first phase, the disillusionment phase. My oldest is 18, getting ready to graduate. I'm in the disillusionment phase right now.
Yeah. They do come around though. So, you know, I will say that it's like, I remember those years where they're like, you know, they don't like you at all, and, you know, you don't understand anything. And then they come around to that where they're like, you know, gosh, thanks Mom and Dad for you being so, you know, whatever we were. I mean, so that it's a, you know, when they're little, they warm our hearts, and when they get older, they step on our hearts. But they get back to the warming again too. So, I mean, it's fun when mine have said, gosh, I understand Mom now. I remember holding Ashley, who's my first, for the first time. I remember vividly telling my mom, you just don't understand. Times were different when you were my age. I was probably 18-ish or whatever. I remember saying those words to her. And then when I had Ashley, I just remember holding her, and I was crying. And I called her, and I was like, Mom, I am so sorry. I mean, I really didn't think you understood, but once I held that baby for the first time, I knew she understood. Anything else? You guys are a quiet group. You're full? Ate all that good food? That's a lot of food over there.
Would you make just a comment about natural family planning, the diocese for natural family planning?
Yeah, I'm working on that. We kind of, I am a Billings ovulation instructor, and I do classes. I've been doing that for, like I said, 36 years. I was 6 months pregnant with Ashley when I started, and that is something I'm trying to beef up the instructors that we have throughout the diocese, so that we can provide that. So if you ever have somebody, I mean, I'm happy to come, or if we could get somebody up here would be great. But the diocese kind of backed off a little bit on the support of it. So now that I'm in this role, I'm hoping to get that a little bit. I mean, it's the teaching of our church. It's no artificial contraception. So we have to provide classes for the couples. Did that answer your question?
And can people get trained if they want to be trained as instructors? Who do they contact?
They can contact me.
Just repeat the question, because my I don't pick up on that.
Oh, okay. So the question was, if someone wanted to be trained as a trainer for natural family planning, just they can contact me, and I'll get them. We've done years. I was trying to think of what year that was. We actually did a training in Jackson where people came, and myself and another certified instructor did the training actually Father Kent's sister, Martha Wynn. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to be trained. And there's different methods too. So the method that I'm certified in is the Billings method. There's some other methods, and some of them have like online options. So. Anything else? Nothing else? Was I the quickest one?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Nothing else. All right, some of you have been married like whatever 40 something years or 50. Anybody been how's the longest in here? 50? 46? 56. Cool. 53? Great. You
Until he passed away, I was married to him for 49 3/4.
Oh, well, that counts. That counts. That counts.
All right, let's ask you a question.
Okay.
Being that you've been married this long, do you sometimes just sort of think the same thing that each other is thinking about? You know, I always found that before he passed away, it just, we could be working and we're tired, we took a shower and all, and he says, "Wanna go out to eat?" I'd love to go out. He knew what I was thinking. And I didn't have to say it. Or I'd say something to him and he says, "Sound like a good idea to me."
Yeah.
And I thought, all these years, all of a sudden now we're, it's got to be one. Just one. Because we sort of blended in together. We just one.
Yeah.
It'll work.
I think I'm probably better at that than Doug is. I mean, I'll say something and he'll go, "How did you know I was about to ask you that?" Or, I was like, I've been with you for so long. I kind of know when he's about to say something. Ticks him off. I mean, it really makes him mad. But I do think you just, you've been together so long that you kind of have a rhythm.
You're in sync.
Do what?
So you're in sync.
In sync. That's right. In sync, for sure. All right, those of you who've been married 50-something, you surely have some wisdom for us like newlyweds. No wisdom? What would one piece of advice, if you've been married over 50 years, what's one piece of advice you would give couples?
Never have to say you're sorry.
Pardon me?
Say you're sorry.
Never have to say you're sorry or say you're sorry? Either one. Okay. Right. Listen, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't do enough listening.
Yeah. He said to listen. Listen.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Turn the hearing aid up, right?
You got to say talk.
Talk. Right. Right. I think sometimes people think once you're married, you just kind of coast. I mean, I say married, it's like maintenance on a car. You got to put gas in the car. You got to change the oil. You got to rotate the tires. I mean, there's maintenance in it. Even when you've been married for so many years, that you never stop working. I don't think, or maybe that's just for Doug and I. I mean, different phases of your life. You have the little children, and then we had teenagers, and now we have grown, so I mean there's different phases. The empty nest was really hard for me.
I think that is the hardest part for me, not necessarily for her, but you go through you have your kids, that's my focus. Then they get into their sports, that's my focus. Then they get into high school, they do their thing in college, that's my focus. But where do we go through all this? Because that's what we have to work on is where are we? Because vacations were around, right, volleyball tournaments, softball tournaments.
Right.
So now we're in a position where, okay, babe, the kid, where do you want to go on vacation?
I know.
Where do you want to go?
Right.
So that's our thing right now. And that's mine. you know, one of my things is, I'm like, hang up, you know, we talk. That's true.
Right. You know, when I guess when I was first married, it was like these people who divorced after 30 years or whatever. You're like, seriously? How in the world does that happen? But now that I have been married longer, I understand how it happens, because you get so, and probably more so me than Doug, I mean, so wrapped up in the children that then then they're gone, and you kind of look at this person and go, who the heck are you? I mean, you know, you got to kind of get, you know, keep reconnect, again, that maintenance. You keep reconnecting, and I mean, the romance is still, sometimes the romance is just sitting there watching TV. It's not the wine and the candlelight and all that. It's just, like I said, some of those things, people might say, well, that seems corny, that would be romantic to you, but it's just that, it's just those memories and those things that are imprinted on your heart that, ma'am?
I have a couple of things. Be always respectful of one another. Keep your communication open. And actually listen, hear what they're telling you. They can't read. I mean, sometimes we are right in sync. You know, we're going to be saying the same things, but we can't always read each other's minds.
Right.
And we're supposed to be the number one above the children, even though the children take a lot of our time. We've been in empty nesters, 3 times, 4 times. I mean, we've had kids come and go. My parents have come and gone. We've had grandkids come and go.
Wow.
So, but, you know, you still have to be in sync with one another, and we're still above it, you know. We think of each other's first.
Right.
And then the kids. And that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because the kids do take a lot of time.
And I've probably not been as good as because, you know, it's like all the energy and like the tank is empty, you know, so. Did y'all hear what all she said? Okay. That's good. Anything else?
You know, the one thing that hasn't been said is that you still have to keep God in your life, even in your marriage. Because, I mean, there's times that God keep me from killing him.
Yeah.
You know, please keep me from killing him.
Yeah. You know,
I understand better.
Yeah. I assume that because I can't imagine how you do it without God. I just really can't. That's one of the things I was telling my daughter who's married, and I see some of the things that they, you know, he's more, you know, he did a lot with his friends and stuff, and I'm like, you know, now they have two little ones. You guys, it's not about what he wants to do or what she wants. It's about what they're going to do, and the children, I mean, they're little, so they require constant attention, you know. But I keep telling, she's a nurse, so a lot of times she's working on a weekend. I said, and he's not Catholic, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I said, you've got to have God as the foundation. I don't know how anybody does it without God as the foundation. I don't think it can be done. I really don't. Do what? Amen. Really. Well, y'all, I have enjoyed being with you guys. I'll be here for a little while, so if you have something you want to ask or